Hi, this is teacher Karigodo Tonjige, the owner of this channel. Dear listeners and viewers of this channel, welcome to the lesson of today concerned about relevance of a little work. Relevance means how a little work related or connected from the contemporary issues or in a society. Relevance is one of element of content in literature. Dear listeners, especially students who take literature in English and the English language, even those who start in university level and in college. Relevance used by little analysts to analyze a little work by relating the central ideas from the little work and to the society. That's why I have brought you this lesson on how to relate the central ideas from a little work to your societies. And also, I have brought you this lesson to gain knowledge on how you can write your book by relating to your societies. That's why the writers write their book to reflect the things which is happening in their society or in their continent. I'm going to give you examples of the relevance from different books in literature in English, which used in Tanzania. Let me start with novels which use in literature in English. The first novel is about The Concubine by Rich Ahmad. Rich Ahmad wrote that novel to reflect on the issue of African tradition and customs, especially on the issue of superstition beliefs, how superstition beliefs affect the Africans. In that novel, The Concubine, the issue of superstition beliefs still exists in African societies because the Africans beliefs in superstition beliefs, especially witch doctors or witchcraft. Any activities should, when they want to perform, should consider their gods or should use their witch doctors to perform the activities. Up to now, these situations or these uh, activities still practiced in African societies. That we call relevance. That's why Rich Ahmad wrote his novel, The Concubine, to reflect the life of Africans, how Africans believe in witchcrafts. The second central ideas, which is related to our society or contemporary societies, of the issue of polygamy. Example, who is father and the other Africans, male more than two wives. Up to now, in African societies, polygamy still existing. That we call its relevance. Let me shift to the second novel, which is The Old Man in the Meadow. This novel, written by Ferdinand Oyono from Cameroon, and this novel talks about colonialism in Africa. But nowadays, in 20th century, we are not talking about colonialism. But in that novel, The Old Man in the Meadow has other central ideas like the issue of exploitation, how men are exploited by white people. Up to now, the issue of exploitation is still a big problem to the poor people or the lower class. How the higher class exploits the poor people. I'm talking about the Africans. There is exploitation between Africans and the Africans. And also there is investors. I'm talking about the people from outside exploit the indigenous people. So exploitation is still a big challenge to our society. That we call is relevance. Another central ideas which is related to our society from the novel The Old Man the Meadow, the issue of racism. How a certain group segregate another group. Here there is racism among the Africans. And also there is a racism between government and the citizen. And also there is a racism between the people from outside and Africans. And racism categorized in different areas. There is a racism in churches, and also there is a racism in luxury houses. I'm talking about racism in the clubs. The, the rich people and the poor peoples are not sitting together. That because that recalls relevance. How the theme of racism still relevance to contemporary societies. Another novel which used in literature in English, Houseboy by Ferdinand Oyono. Also, this novel talks about the issue of colonialism in Africa, but it also has other themes like the issue of uh, prostitutions. To example, Madame Seuss, chief commander and his wife. Up to now, this central ideas for teachers is a big challenge to the young people, especially ladies, African ladies. They do this central idea to get money. Nowadays, the life has changed. When we talk about prostitution in Africa, still a big challenges, especially in urban areas. So prostitution is relevant to our society. Another thing is the theme of brutalities. How a higher class undermine the lower class. I'm talking about the government. Nowadays, the government undermines the lower peoples. Nowadays, we see how people disappear without knows where they are. That's why the theme of brutality is still a big challenge to African societies. The last novel, which used in literature in English, is A Walk in the Night from South Africa by Alex Laguma. The main theme is about racism in that novel. As I said, racism still a big challenge to the African societies. And also there is the issue of revenge, especially the poor people, still a big problems. Let me shift it to the plays which used in literature in English. Let him start with The Lion and the Jail. The play talks about the issue of cultural interference between African culture and Western culture. Lakunle believes in Western culture, and Sidi, Chief Baloka, Ailatu, and Sadiku believes in African cultures. How do these groups struggle for their sides? Lakunle struggle against African culture, while the other side preserve African culture. We see how Lakunle caught different conflicts or misunderstanding to those who believes in African cultures. Up to now, the issue of cultural interference still a big challenges, especially to the educated ones or to the education people and elitist people. Nowadays, elites ignore the African culture, and this led conflict or misunderstanding among people in African societies. Another play which is in literature in English, the English of which is the Trials of Brother Jello by Woisoinka. This novel, no, this play, the Trials of Brother Jello, talks about the issue of fake prophet, who is Brother Jello. Nowadays, there is a big problems to our prophets or priests in Africa. That's why Woisoinka wrote the Trials of Brother Jello to warn those prophets who use religion for their benefits. That's why this play still relevant to our society because we have fake prophets in our societies who use religion for their benefits or for business. That equals relevance, dear viewers and listeners. Another play, which is The Dilemma of a Ghost by Christina Amata Ido. This play talks about the issue of cultural interference between American culture and African culture. Atwende usually believes in American culture because adopted the Western American culture, while Nana Esco Monka Petu Akroma Akiele believes in African culture. I'm talking about Ghanaian culture. These cultures uh, are not related together. Even nowadays, there is a big problems to the educated people and the literate peoples. I'm talking about the Africans, because Africans peoples believes in their culture, while those who go to a Western culture or American culture, they they struggle against the African cultures because they see African cultures outdated. That's why this is still a big challenge up to now. That equals relevance. The last play which is used in literature in English, The Government Inspector by Nikolai Gogol. This play talks about the issue of corruption. Dear listeners, corruption is still a big challenge up to now. The play, written or published in the year of 1836, but up to now still used in Tanzania. You can ask yourself why. Because, as I said, relevance reflect to the or connect to the contemporary issues. Even nowadays, the issue of corruption is still a big challenge. That because relevance. We see in that play the main character Ivan Alexandrovich Lestakov used his position to take bribes, and other officials leaders like mayor, school superintendent, child commissioner, and district judge. That is the relevance, dear listeners. Even the poet and poetess compose poems to reflect the reality from the African society or from their societies. You can read any poems and then you just compare to your societies. Have you read the poems Itimo by Joe Collie from South Africa? That poems talks about the issue of unemployment and poverty. How lower classes suffer with poverty and unemployment. Up to now, well, in Africa, there is a problem of employment. That's why it's still relevant to our societies. Also, have you read the poems Building the Nation by Henrik Mwangabaro? That poem talks about the issue of misuse of public funds, how permanent secretary PS use the government funds for lecture life. We see the persona of the speaker, the driver narrate the stories about the permanent secretaries. Even nowadays, leaders use their position for selfishness or for their benefits. Another poems, have you read the poems Africa by David Mendes Diop? And that poem talks about the issue of awareness, but the poems is reflect direct to the issue of colonialism, how Africa is exploited by white peoples. But that poems makes about awareness. You can see even in our society there is a patriotic peoples who struggle against the exploitations. And also in our society, you have peoples who are aware with their rights. Those poems still relevant to our societies. Dear listeners, let me conclude by saying that little books or little work reflect to our societies. Yes, you can read any book and relate to our societies. It can be novel, short story, play, or poem. Just read and compare to our societies. That's why poets or writers or playwrights or authors are the best teachers in our societies because they write their work to educate the societies at all by comparing the little work and things which is happening in our societies. That's why I, teacher Kaliko Doto Njike, I have brought these lessons so as to get knowledge on how you can compare. I'm talking about relevance to your societies. Let me end here. Thank you for listening me. If you have questions, you can write below these videos. I can answer your question. Thank you.